And coming to you live right now is Backpass with Russ with a brand new episode and reviewing the group stage that just ended of World Cup 2022. Unfortunately, my co-host, resident young man Kelvin, is not around because he's away for a tournament in Batam. And actually, in actual fact, I thought we would have some time after the group stage to before the second round of fixtures start. And in fact, I thought it's still called the second round, but it seems he's changed his name to round of 16. Well, whether that is news to me or not, I do not know, or I'm not getting the right information. I'm not too sure. But, anyways, joining me on the show today, it's Sivan John from the Bola Bola Show. How are you doing, Sivan?
Hey, I'm all good, Russ. How's everybody, man? How about you?
I'm good, man. And Sivan, one third of the Bola Bola show, I must say, because normally he's appeared in our show a lot of times, and he's been solo flying the flag for the show. This time we actually tried getting another of his co-hosts to be on the show. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it as well, so it's just me and him now. Sivan, how you feeling?
Feeling all good, feeling all nervous, feeling all excited, feeling everything, like, bro. What do you expect? I mean, today, of course, those of you are watching, Russ from Singapore, I'm from Malaysia. So the game, the obvious game which I'm looking forward to, will kick off at about 3 a.m.
Hmm,
our time. So,
hmm,
yep, I mean, every single emotion you can think of is just running into you right now, lah. So
hmm.
we'll see how it goes. We'll see.
Okay. Understand how you feel. Uh, I wish I could feel that, but got to wait about 4 years or maybe 2 years. Let's see, 2 years because of the Euros, and 4 years for the next World Cup. So, anyways, even the group stage is over. I think we barely had time to catch our breath, and that's it. Second round of fixtures has started. And do you know it's now called the round of 16 or not?
Actually, I think it was officially all the while known as round of 16. But
Okay.
it's just that I think for the easier way of saying it, perhaps it was used. The second stage was widely used. But then
Hmm.
again, you have to remember the second stage could mean a few things because in 1986 they also had a second stage which was in a grouping
Yeah.
format. Sorry,
Yeah.
1982,
82. Yeah.
and similarly also in 78 and 74. So I suppose around a 16 may sound a bit more appropriate, lah. But then
Hmm.
again, I think for us, I mean, considering everybody, I think these days if you tell second stage, they understood which level are we talking about, lah.
Okay, all right. Anyway,
Mm.
just to address the elephant in the room, I got a bit of a new head, not say a hairdo, but a new hairstyle. Oh, well, it's not even a hairstyle; it's just something. I'm gonna be the David Beckham of podcasts. Just a bad hair day, so I thought, why not I bring back this look that I had been flaunting probably my when I was 17, 18. That was a time where I had gone for the Juan Sebastian Veron look of shaving my head bald and just having the
Hmm.
goatee, but perhaps I
Okay,
didn't have
okay.
the confidence like him to just go around with the shaven head. And because I was wearing specs as well, so I had a feeling that I look a bit more like Mahatma Gandhi and less than less less Juan Veron and more Mahatma Gandhi. So that's why I incorporated this bandana look at that time. So here it is.
Mhm.
So right, Steven, let's get
Mhm.
straight into the football. Okay,
Mhm.
Group A. Here you go. Group A, plastering all over our face right now. Netherlands and Senegal have gone through. So Group A, let's talk about the host Qatar. Okay, Steven, you're a man of football. You know about football, not just you know in certain parts of the world or what. You know it from everywhere. I'm sure you were aware of Qatar being the Asian champions. They won the Asian Cup, and you would have seen them play in that Asian Cup. Do you feel that having seen them play in that Asian Cup, they would struggle this badly in the World Cup that they hosted? The worst performance of any host, in fact. And in fact, on that note as well, Steven, like I mean, we've been watching World Cup for a long time, so we've had hosts who were not really your football powerhouses or like USA, Japan, Korea. and all of them did well to progress out of the group stage. Then even South Africa did quite well, but they didn't progress out of group stage, but still decently well.
They won a game.
Yeah, they won a game,
Mm.
draw a game, won a game, lost one, 4 points, not bad. And Qatar, I looking at the Asian Cup, having won that, I thought, okay, that's some platform for them to build on, right? Going into this World Cup that they're hosting, and because they're hosting, they'll be really pumped up and would be really ready for this tournament. But apparently they're not. So your opinions on the host?
Well, disappointed lah. Of course, when you what you've heard and what you've seen from them over the last 5 6 years, I would say it's kind of let down, considering the fact that, as you mentioned, they are the reigning Asian champion. So and don't forget the fact that they also have took part in other competitions as well, including the Copa America and the CONCACAF Gold Cup. Many of the results were very respectable, considering their position where they are and they going all to this competition. But somehow or other, I think you know I don't know. Maybe it's just because of playing on the world stage, the jitters, or some of these problem may have affected them. But nevertheless, it's I mean, I'm sure most Qataris wouldn't mind, but considering the amount of investment they made to this team, it's a huge letdown and disappointing that they
Mm,
didn't win a single game and only could score one goal. I thought, maybe against Ecuador, we could have seen, one of those surprise opening
yeah,
fixtures,
uh,
similarly like like Cameroon, Argentina, Senegal,
yeah,
France. But
France, yeah.
I think overall, from their performance, it was nowhere to be seen that they're going to at least get something out of all their three games.
Mm.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on from that. Okay, you are an so-called expert. I would say, yeah, lah, for us in
No
this
lah, bro.
part of the world, you are an expert in South American football. Not many know much about what's going on in South America, but what do you know about Ecuador going into this World Cup? Because for me, they're impressive. They had an impressive tournament. I thought they would qualify, but Senegal did instead of Ecuador. So,
I honestly don't know much about this current Ecuador team except for a handful of names, which is one of it, the what do you call it, Valencia. But on the other hand, I
yeah,
think you know there's one thing about Ecuador. I think similarly to Bolivia, there's a saying that one of their key strength is playing at home, which their home ground is located at a very high altitude level,
mm,
which makes it quite difficult for visiting teams to come and try to get something. And even Argentina, for a few times, I remember going to Quito and losing as well. So the question always comes back is whether or not can they do away from their home. And if you can remember, in 2006, they surprised everybody to finish
yeah,
second in the group behind Germany. And I
yeah.
thought they could do it again this time. I felt, they were a bit unlucky in their last game against Senegal. They could have, if they could have just, earned a draw, I suppose they would have gone through. Am I right?
Well, they won the first game, drew a second game. Yeah, yeah, they would have qualified with draw. Yep,
Yeah.
you're right. And yeah, Ecuador. They, we remember they made their debut in the World Cup in 2002, and since then they've been always there or thereabouts in the World Cup, but never really created an impression. And the best performance was in 2006, and you don't really have names. You can reel off of Ecuadorian players, probably Antonio Valencia, Agustin Delgado,
Yep.
Ivan Hurtado, yeah,
Yes.
perhaps at stretch these three. Of course, Antonio Valencia because he played for
I,
Manchester
I, I don't know
United.
whether the
He's
name,
the
I don't know whether the name Alexi Aginaga rings a bell for you or not.
Yeah, yeah, I remember him. Yeah, I remember
Mm-mm.
his name, but again, like I say, most people will be hard pressed to name him. But yeah,
Yep.
Ecuador has always been that kind of team that has been there and thereabouts. Their performance also in the World Cups we've seen okay, not really wow, fantastic. But this time, I really was impressed by what I saw from Ecuador. But unfortunately, they got knocked out. And on the flip side, Senegal. For me, Senegal leading up to the last game, I felt they were disappointing. They were African champions, champions of Africa, and then so-called they had this like a bit of a golden generation coming through in Senegal. And don't forget the last World Cup, of course, they got eliminated by the narrowest of margins, which was fair play. You
Fair
know what I
play.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that World Cup, I felt they played really well and they were impressive. I thought, wow, you know, after the Senegal of 2002, I thought, wow, that this one there's something to build on here.
Mhm.
And then in this World Cup, not really. And then surprised everyone by beating Ecuador in last game, and here they are in the second round. Yourself, for your opinion on Senegal, this Senegal team, you think they did well, or
I
you agree with me?
I think they did okay enough to make it out of the group stage. Remember, their biggest star is missing from this.
Yeah,
I
I
think he's still
really felt that they missed Sadio
yeah.
Mane a lot.
I think he's still in the squad. Only thing he's still injured, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me here if I'm wrong.
Hmm, not too sure on
So,
that.
but again, they're missing his presence. His aura on the field makes a lot of difference for them. But I think so far, considering the fact that without him, and they still managed to grind some good results and get themselves into the knockout stage. Probably the game against Netherlands a little bit unlucky. Obviously, they got the positive one against Qatar, and the game against Ecuador itself. So
Hmm.
I think kudos to them lah for making to the round of 16. And most importantly, in Ali Cisse, he did it both as a player and a coach.
Oh
Took
yes,
his
yes.
team
I
into the
mean that
round of
for us
16.
is, yeah, yeah. I mean that's
Yep.
nice. That's lovely to see, because of course we still remember the 2002 team. That one was a bit magical. That was magical compared to this one, but still, that a member of that team, LUCC, the last time, in fact, there's a very fun fact that the last time Senegal qualified to the knockout round was in 2002. So LUCC, a bit of a good luck charm. He was the captain then, remember, in
Yep.
2002.
Yep.
Yeah.
A real leader, I
And
would
now,
say lah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Certainly, yes. And now, finally, the Dutch. Have you been impressed by the Dutch?
Well, the thing is about this current Netherlands team, I don't see that. I mean, I think there's a solid team, lah, but just doesn't have that
Flair,
outstandingness, that flair,
extravagance.
that
Yeah.
like your Robin, your Van der Vaart, your Wesley Snyder. I mean, it doesn't have those kind of characters. But I
Mm,
think what this team has is a coach that knows how to build a
win.
very solid team,
Yeah.
and I think it's just timely that they managed to bring him on board because in the Euros they had the was it Philip Koku, if I'm not mistaken,
Let me
and
check that. Yeah.
yeah, I
I'll
know.
check
I know.
that
It was a
briefly.
I felt it was a very disappointing campaign
Yeah.
when they could have sticked around with Ronald Koeman. I mean, of course, Koeman. When the Barcelona came knocking on his door and he went for it. But I felt that under Koeman they were building towards something interesting, something great. But then with Philip Koku, everything sort of
No,
stagnant, and
not Philip Cocu. Is Frank de Boer.
Frank de Boer. Okay, my apologies. So I felt they were very stagnant. Nothing was happening for them. Even in the Euros, they look very underwhelming. But with Luis Van Gaal, not to say they look outstanding, but they are a team that's getting the results. Not really
Mm,
the total football kind of result, but it's
yeah.
good enough to get them top the group.
And Cody Gakpo. What do you think?
Yeah.
Star so far, one of the young stars of the tournament, right?
Yep. I think one to look for lah. But
Yeah.
hopefully, like many outstanding Dutch players that that come to the World Cup with good reputation. I hope we can build on something to that because I remember 8 years ago we were
Mm,
saying similar things with Memphis Depay,
yeah.
but
Correct. Correct. Correct.
in the years to come, it turns out he didn't became the player that we all thought he was going to be. Okay,
Yeah.
not bad, but
Exactly.
just not the Wesley Snyder or the Arjen Robben that we thought he's going to be.
Yeah. True. Correct. Let's see how Cody Gakpo does and how the Dutch do actually in about 2 hours time. In a couple of hours, are they going to play? So we're gonna preview that as well. So moving on from Group A, Group B. England, US going through Iran. Unlucky. Iran just missed the boat, and Wales, out they go. So, I mean, again, bottoms up. Wales, end of a generation. Agreed.
I felt honestly, I mean, it's good to see Wales in the bigger stage, lah.
Yeah,
But I kind of
correct.
felt that this generation is sadly. I mean, don't get me wrong here. They have Thomas Soba, Huddersfield Town player. I really respect him. Goalkeeper Danny Ward was the hero of the day at Wembley for us. Fine, But overall, I would say it's a bit of an overrated generation. I
Mm.
kind of felt that the generation of the Gary Speed, Mark Hughes, Ian Rush, Neville Southall, Ryan Giggs were far more better and had more
Oh yeah,
quality.
yeah,
But
yeah.
unfortunately, at that era when the World Cup was only 24 teams, they just couldn't be. They couldn't. They just missed the boat on a few notch. But again, I mean, kudos to this team. They came here. I mean, they turned up, but obviously we felt disappointed lah.
Mm.
And I'm still wondering. Everybody's asking where is this player, where is that player. By the way, where is Gareth Bale?
Yeah, now in fact now in this World Cup there's this thing about fans coming up and asking where's Gareth Bale. Then someone came up with where's Lionel Messi, and then the most recent one was what?
Where's
Can't remember.
Morata?
Ah, yes, where's Morata? Yeah, so this is a new trend that's come up in this World Cup. It's entertaining, but if you're on the wrong end of it, it might irritate you. I understand that.
Actually, I would say this banter originated from the 2014 AFF Suzuki Cup.
Okay,
I
how?
don't. If you
Oh,
remember
I
the
remember.
game,
I remember. Yes, Singapore.
yes, the game Malaysia against Singapore,
Yeah,
whereby what's the keeper name?
Hassan
Uh,
Sani, I think the
Hasan
keeper.
Sani. He went missing, and then there was this
Yeah, mana
very
bola?
famous. What keeper kat mana? Where's the
Keeper kat
goalkeeper?
mana? Oh, okay, okay. Oh my God. Okay. So, anyways, back to the Wales. The Welsh team. I think they reached the height in Euro 2016. I think that's the height, the best performance they could muster. And then after that, well, I mean, we've not seen Wales in a international tournament for a long time, and they qualified for Euro 2016. But that also because the number of teams in the European Championships was
Mhm,
expanded. So they
mhm,
qualified, they went there, they did well, knocked out Belgium, which nobody expected, and then okay, good performance, exciting, um, and that's it. That's the pinnacle. And then the previous one, they finished. They couldn't get out of the group, but again, still qualifying for another international tournament for a country like Wales, big thing. And then qualifying for the World Cup for the first time since 1958 is also a big achievement, as it is. So I feel, yeah, I mean that itself is a great achievement. But performance on the day, I felt, yeah, I mean, it's the end of the road for a lot of the players that were touted as their star man, Gareth Bale, Aaron Ramsey, these guys. It's the end of the road. Will we see Wales back again? We do not know. Well, let's see on that. And Iran. Okay, now let's talk Iran and US. I watched that game, Iran against US, a straight shootout between the two teams. Iran could have
mhm.
done with a draw. They could have done with a draw. They would have qualified with a draw. But I just felt they were not in the game at all. I thought US were completely ahead of them. They were faster to the ball. They were, just faster generally. And Iran were misplacing passes, and US deservedly took the lead. But Iran, I felt were defending very well until that well worked move that US carved out, and they took the lead, which they deserve because they were pushing, and they were the team that had the initiative going forward. I'm not sure if you watched that match, Steven.
I don't think I did watch that game. It was running a 3 o'clock fixture, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken, right?
3 a.m. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
at 3 a.m.
but I
Wasted
know
my
for a
sleep.
fact. Yeah, but in fact, I know this game was definitely one of the games to look out for, considering
Yeah,
the political background between these two countries.
yeah.
But the thing is about in this fixture, I think it wasn't anything to do with between these two, but more to do with what's happening with Iran back in their own country, which
Mm,
I think may have affected the player, in some ways emotionally, perhaps trying to on their concentration or focus, maybe right. But
mm.
still, I think credit to them. Even despite the big loss they got against England, they recovered well against Wales to earn a win,
Yeah, that was
what
exciting
was
against Wales.
yeah,
Yeah,
continuing what was a good run among AFC representative in the World Cup.
yeah.
But I did feel, depth wise, USA was going to be too good for them. Would definitely make it out of the group ahead of Wales and Iran.
Mm.
England, of course, we expected them to top the group, which they did. But I think we need to look at this US team, because this is a generation of US players who they are not.
They are right. They are rightfully the king of Concacaf right now. I
Yeah,
feel.
if you look at it, I mean, you have players who are playing for some of the biggest clubs, and I would say it's interesting to see how this generation is going to build up in the next 4 years when they host the World Cup.
Yeah, interesting indeed. Um, Again, Iran, I've always had a soft spot for them for since '98. But looking at that match, Iran against US, it felt less. I mean, when they played in '98, it felt more of a, like a show. They had exchanged flowers, they had joint team photos, and then so there's a bit of a, um, I wouldn't say festival around it. It was more like a build up about it. This was straight up football match. Straight up just that. Nothing much. Nothing. Nobody's touching on the political side of things. And yeah, so I mean, like as you say, I think the quality in the end turned out. And I would say the first game where they got hammered by England 6-2. I mean, kudos to England and played well and to win 6-2. But that's not the usual Iran. No, we've been watching Iran for a number of years now. Under Carlos Queiroz, they always been solid defensively, very difficult to break down. Even at World Cups, teams find it difficult to break them down. Even from '98, I think teams were finding it difficult to break them down. You would have teams would labor to win against Iran with maybe 1-0
Yep,
here and there and all that. But this
yep.
one, completely open, got smashed 6-2, and well, that's really unlike Iran. And then they showed their true self against Wales, and then that's it. End of the road. Unfortunate, but I mean, eventually, I think quality played part. A bit on England. They had a bit of a scare against US, but then eventually, I think people are commenting that it's an easy group for England. But I mean, don't forget that some years back, I think they had US, Algeria in their group, and one other team I can't remember, but they really labored.
Slovenia.
So Slovenia, yeah. So they really labored in that tournament to get out of the group, and they did eventually. But my opinion is that when it comes to tournaments, you can only beat what's in front of you, and then if you make it look easy, it's to your credit. But otherwise, I do agree that sometimes some groups are really easy because the level of the opposition is not that high, and perhaps it's a bit true in this case as well. But yeah, your opinion on England? I mean, I know not your favorite team, but still.
I think we need to give some credit to Marcus Rashford. With
Hmm.
every game, he seems to be improving. That's
Hmm.
one of the that's one of the important things I've seen from this England side. And of course, Phil Foden as well. Playing a
Yeah,
very important role. And Jude Bellingham, not to forget that. I think he's also having a good
yeah,
tournament so far. But again, it remains to be seen whether or not if England can continue with this momentum. Because
yeah.
in most World Cups, as we have seen, when it comes to the crucial and the most important stage of the tournament,
The crunch time.
the crunch time, something will go wrong. And I think quite often I would say it's nothing to do with the players, but more on how Gareth Southgate mobilizes the
Yeah,
team, what sort of
yeah,
tactic, what sort of substitution, what sort of decisions he makes. So
yeah,
that's going to be crucial going into the knockout stage for England. But so
yeah.
far, I think that I would like to say they are on the right track. Lah.
Mm. But I would say I agree with you. I think Gareth Southgate is if anyone is, I think Gareth Southgate is holding them back.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so moving on to Group C, your favorite group, of course. Your team is involved in it. Argentina, Poland went through a bit of a dramatic last day. And let's start with the first game, Argentina against Saudi. Your opinion on it as an Argentine fan and as a football fan, deserved defeat for Argentina, or you felt Argentina hard done by?
As a fan of Argentina, it's hard for me to, how do I put it? Not to be harsh on. I mean, I can't be harsh on the players because to be honest, it doesn't seem like none of the players felt like themselves.
Mm,
I have to say that. I do not know what happened. Maybe it was the occasion, considering the fact that 7 players were making their World Cup debut. I mean, that
okay.
says that probably might have been an issue, or otherwise the fact that, as I've spoken to many people, these World Cup groups, we cannot take any team slightly because Saudi Arabia, they are very much at home in this World Cup. It's just going to a neighboring country. They are so used to the
Yeah,
weather, the
yeah,
surroundings, and all that. something which most other teams, including Argentina, are not very used to. But in the end of the day, even after when the second goal was scored, a brilliant goal by Saudi Arabia, I had a feeling going, even that time it was like 65, I had a feeling that it's not happening today. Something
Mm,
isn't right. Something like wasn't working with this team.
mm,
But it's good to see that Messi showing his leadership, bringing the players after the match between Mexico and Poland, getting them to make them understand, what is the task ahead. And, they recovered well. Even though against Mexico, frankly speaking, the first 35 minutes, even I was, man, I was in Penang watching the game. I was like, hold on a second, what's going on here, man? Because the entire team looks very disjointed. There was no
mm,
sort of synergy between the attackers, midfielders, and the defenders.
mm,
Rodrigo De Paul didn't look like the player that I know he will always be when he wears Argentine jersey. We all
mm.
know that he has his tough time with Atletico Madrid. When
Yeah,
it
yeah.
comes to Argentina, he's a totally different guy.
Mm,
So, but towards the end of the first half, I could see things are beginning to improve. All they needed was that goal, to break the mold at the same time, calm the nerves, and then they can slowly start getting to the game. And it had to come. It had to come from the one and only Lionel
Messi.
Messi. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, on that point, I got to say, first of all, the Argentina Saudi game, I thought, wow, exciting, fantastic. As a neutral, fantastic that Saudi won. Didn't expect it. I mean, the moment they had the penalty and Messi scored, I thought that's it. Game over. And then they had repeated offsides. But they were true. I mean, they were offsides. I felt they were offsides. Some people were saying no, they were not offsides, and VR got it wrong. But I personally felt it was offside, and I felt the Saudi tactics worked really well. They played the high line very well, and to catch Argentina offside. And then even in the first half, you could see that something there was brewing. That they could actually hurt Argentina, and they did eventually in the second half. And what a exciting game. But I want to ask you something on Saudi. Do you think it's a mistake for the government to reward the players after that win, and that has maybe caused them to not qualify?
That's something happens in Malaysian football, bro.
Yeah, correct.
Most
I
of the
know.
time, we reward our player before the job gets done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible. It could have been. I mean, maybe they could have. The motivation might have dropped down a few notch or something. I don't know, possible. But at the end of the day, I think it's quite a common thing in Saudi Arabia, I suppose, for their government to reward their players. I think it comes down to the coach and
Mm.
what a tremendous tactician he was on that day.
Yeah.
I think his tactical was spot on in how he wanted to squeeze Argentina and try to get the result out of the game. Two
Mm.
shot on target, two goals.
Yeah.
This is why I keep saying when it comes to the World Cup, there's no such thing as easy games.
Mm.
Whatever on paper can be said and done. It all comes down to what happens on that day in the match. Who takes their chances? The more you take your chances, the more chances you have to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's simple as that.
Correct. As true. And I felt the turning point for Saudi was in the second game against Poland, because that one they had a lot of chances. They were on a high. They were feeling confident, and they were like banging down the door of the Polish team, and Poland were just playing a usual Italian game, probably, Catenaccio sitting back, and considering a lot of their defenders and players, even a goalkeeper, played in Italy, so it felt a bit of like a made in Italy performance from
Mm-hmm.
Poland. And that penalty save, I mean, Wojciech Szczesny, when that penalty was awarded, I felt, okay, he could save this, because he's been doing it for Juventus. I know that he's been doing it for Juventus. I've seen that. So I was fearful that the Saudi player would miss it, and true enough, he missed it. So
Mm-hmm.
then that's it. They just couldn't find the goal. It's just unlucky. The ball didn't fall nicely for them, and they couldn't find a goal. So that made a lot of difference in that game. And then that's it. For then the last game they're just not in it again. Like Iran a day before, I think Saudi was just not in it at all. Um, Argentina, got to say, I mean, you were saying you're jittery. I didn't watch the game against Mexico, but I know I was reading the tweets after that. I saw your tweets as well. and other Argentine fans also, they were jittery. So what I've got to say is this, World Cups, I mean, if a team wants to be successful, you need a special player, and that special player is Messi. We've seen it a lot of times in the history of World Cup where maybe a team is not playing well or under pressure, they're feeling the pressure, but then one of their star player always turns up and he scores, wins them the game, takes it by the scruff of the neck. We've seen it, Zidane that has done it, Ronaldo, Messi, so many names in the past. I will throw in my favorite Baggio, who did it for Italy. So these are the kind of special players. So Messi was that player, and he turned up. For all the criticism he will get sometimes, he made the difference. And then after that, I felt in the last game against Poland, having watched Poland against Saudi, I thought, okay, Poland's going to do the same thing. Going to sit back, defend, and hit Argentina on the break.
That's
And
that's
the
what they did.
longer the longer it stays at nil-nil, I think the more nervous Argentina will get, and they might, want to push more men forward and leave more space behind. But by all accounts, I heard Argentina had a very dominant performance and they won deservedly. And Poland were left sweating because Mexico won against Saudi. And on the Mexicans, I would say, do you think it's one of the poorest Mexican teams you've seen in the World Cup?
Well, I wouldn't say it's one of the poorest Mexican team, but just that felt disappointed that they couldn't make it out of the group stage lah. And
It just didn't feel right, about
but you know,
Mexico
but you know,
this time.
as what you, I think as what we all talked about it before. Going to this competition, they didn't look like a team that is convincing enough. In fact, the coach
Yeah,
Tata Martino, a former Argentina coach, and
yeah,
we used to also at Barcelona.
Barcelona, yeah.
He wasn't really much of a favorite person in Mexico. In fact, quite
Mm,
often he's been vilified by the media there. And
mm.
believe it or not, even after the game against Argentina, some Mexican journalists or media people went on air to say that he actually sold the game on air, on air, basically. So I felt that maybe there's some, maybe the camp behind the scenes, something just didn't feel right with them lah.
Mm. And
Disappointing
as,
lah, because disappointing
mm,
because Mexico, they have this thing called the fifth game curse,
yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
they've been trying to break it
Break.
for, I think, since USA '94. But come every time, for one reason or another, something will happen with them in the last 16. I
Yeah.
think the most painful one, if I can remember, was against Netherlands in 2014.
Mm,
That was very painful, the way they went out in that game. So I
yeah.
thought, maybe this time, who knows, like,
Yeah.
there's always a good for something first to happen, but looks like it became even worse.
Yeah, agreed. Mexico always in every World Cup I think we've watched, they've always impressed in the group stage, and then second round they don't progress after the second round. They go qualify for the second round, get knocked out, and that's it. Bye bye Tata. And yeah, you were talking about that, the curse of the fifth game. This time they couldn't even make it past that. They just got to play three games and that's it. Bye bye. But yeah, I felt. I mean, I have a soft spot for Mexico. For me, they're my favorite Concacaf team since
Mhm.
'94. But I just didn't feel right about this Mexico team, and I feel, rightfully, US is right now the top team in Concacaf because Mexico is not the Mexico that they were. So yeah, that's my opinion. And a quick one on Poland. I think, how did they make it through? Oh man, I think good old Italian tactics. I would feel
I
defending and counter
personally I
attacking.
personally felt, for trying to win games, probably perhaps Mexico would have been a better team in the round of 16 than Poland.
Yeah,
That's just my
yeah,
view lah. Yeah.
yeah. Agreed, agreed, agreed.
Mhm.
Yeah, in terms of aesthetics and the way football is played, blah blah blah. Yeah, I think so too. And I mean Poland as well. I was gonna say, I remember when all these Lewandowski and all were coming through. They were touted also as, wow, look out for Poland. They'll be an exciting team because you got Lewandowski and they had a few players in Dortmund that I can't remember their names of right now. But they were all coming through at about the same time, and then they've always disappointed since then. And then this one, they got through now. So let's see. I mean, you never know. Like Greece in Euro 2004, right? everyone would say, okay, this is an ugly team. They don't like to watch them play and all because nothing much in it for them. They don't play well, but eventually, one game after another, one game after another, they just progress, and they won the whole damn thing. So I'm not saying Poland's going to win the whole damn thing, but you never know in football.
Yep.
Okay, Group D. Okay, truth be told, I think first of all, France has broken the World Cup, European World Cup winners curse and qualified. Easy, in fact. Two games, settled it in two games. That's it, done and dusted. Last game, rested their players. Um, your opinion on France?
I think they did enough, lah. Did what they're supposed to do, lah. Even though yes, they lost their last game, but
Yeah,
as I was told that the game against Tunisia was not really a first choice French team. Was one of some of the reserve players,
yeah,
which
correct,
I
correct. It
which I
was,
think makes sense.
yeah,
You need all your legs to be fresh for the second round. Since
yeah,
you already booked your spot, you're
mm,
top of the table. You might as well just give the other players a chance. Let them have a run out.
yeah, correct.
Maybe,
And also, you
yeah,
never know, right? In the next rounds, because the game might stretch into extra time.
yeah.
You never know who you might have on the bench that you can rely on. Maybe this person on the bench is actually in good form, and
Hmm.
maybe they have this game where they get a chance to start and they play well. You can, okay, the coach knows, okay, I can probably rely on this. It could be my trump card. It could make a difference. Yeah, so agreed. And Tunisia, I mean, beating their former colonial masters, great job. Tunisia is also another team that, I mean, we've seen them in the World Cup. I think I remember them from '98. They were there, um, always thereabouts, but never really impressive. This one also, I remember the first game, the first few seconds of the game, the guy was really, fired up. The Tunisian player. Not sure if you watched that game against
Hmm.
Denmark,
Yep.
and the guy was really fired up. I mean, all the teams, the Arab teams, were really fired up in this World Cup because, of course, of proximity. Qatar is to these nations, and they got really good fan following there. Even people who are based there, the Tunisians based there, they all came out in good numbers, supported them. So I mean that made a big difference. But in terms of a footballing team, not there. My opinion is I felt France got a bit of an easy group because the other teams in the group never really. I didn't feel they really performed. I read your tweet on Denmark, so I want you to tell us about your opinion on Denmark.
I think there was a lot of expectation from Denmark to be the second team to progress from this group
Yeah,
because they did very well in the Euro. But
yeah,
I've always, for me, I've always liked to make it clear that when whatever you achieve 1 year ago or in the past, once you're in the World Cup, those things gets thrown out of the window.
mm,
I think we have seen countless of times that how team come in with some kind of reputation, with some kind of expectation, but they just falter.
yeah,
And I think there are countless of example. So when people say they are disappointed in Denmark and all that, I kind of felt I think they just didn't turn up the way that we expect them to be,
yeah,
and no surprise why they went out. I think we can give credit to Australia despite the fact they lost badly in their first game, but they recovered well in the next two games to earn good results and to make it to the round of 16. Considering their coach not that long ago was this close about to get sacked. He was this close about to get sacked, but because unexpectedly they beat Peru to make it to the World Cup, that saved his job. And today he's taking his team to the round of 16 against Argentina. I
mm,
mean, fortunes can change easily, lah. That's what I would like to say.
yeah. Denmark, I agree with you. I was very impressed with what I saw at Euro 2020. And then this thing came to my mind also. Could it be that Denmark were this impressive in Euro 2020 because they were so united and pumped up after whatever tragic happened to Christian Eriksen in that tournament? And
Yeah,
they were
probably.
all, yeah, they were all really, wow, gung ho and pumped up, and then they did well in the Euros. Probably for him, they were trying to maybe even win it for him, but
Mm-hmm.
they just fell short. And so I thought, yeah, impressive. But in honesty, I think Denmark individually had players that were impressed. They were, really good individual players, maybe at their club level and all that. I've seen them play, good players, but as you said, they didn't turn up. Another possible reason is could be politically they just don't feel it in this tournament. They've always been one of the vocal teams that have said that we don't support the tournament being in Qatar and all that LGBTQ thing. We don't support because you don't let us wear the armband and all that. And their jerseys also, their logo was blanked out or merged into the jersey, but surprisingly they had the Denmark flag on it.
Yep.
But that probably also could have played a part on why we didn't see an impressive Denmark showing. And the last one, I think I gotta ask you about Australia. Without going into much details, previewing the second round match against Argentina, Australia really, I mean, for me, it's not the Australia of 2006 or years before that, or the talent that they used to have. So not really impressed by Australia, but as you said, they had the character to come back from losing 4-1 and getting hammered 4-1, in fact, and qualifying to the second round. So kudos to them. But what have you seen of Australia in this tournament? Sivan, do you catch what I said?
No, I lost you after you mentioned about the Denmark, the logo on their jersey.
Okay. All right.
Okay, okay.
So coming back again, I was talking to you about Australia. I just want to know,
Mhm.
what have you seen of Australia? Because for me, I've not been impressed by Australia, and I felt that, I mean, of course, comparatively, this generation is not really as talented as the ones in 2006, and even the years before that, where they were just failing to qualify for the World Cup. I still had really really good players, but this one not very impressive. But again, you mentioned it very well that they deserve credit for coming back from getting hammered to the world champions and showing character to win the next two games to be in the second round. So they deserve it. In an otherwise I felt poor group. But what have you seen of Australia so far?
Well, obviously, a lot of, I mean, not as you mentioned, this is nowhere near to the class of 2006, that's for sure. But
Mm,
it's a team that you can see, there is a good atmosphere within the camp. The players will really fight for each other. They will play for each other. There's a bit of there's a strong unit basically there. And
mm,
you could see that despite the game against France, as the next two games, they are really playing for each other and really going all out there, leaving everything on the field to get the result. So
mm,
yeah, I think that's the reason why I would say they made it out of the group stage. And even though they too, I mean, we spoke about Denmark, even Australia too has been one of the most vocal team
mm,
about issues in Qatar. They even put up a
mm,
video. The players were
mm,
very outspoken about it. But I think at the same time, they also knew they had a job to do. They knew the task ahead. And I think their focus was right there. But perhaps maybe what we should be looking at from Australia's perspective is how much this result means for the fans back in Australia. We've
mm.
seen the videos, the
Yeah.
gathering at early hours and all that, celebrating and all that. Because as those of you know that the history of football in Australia hasn't been an easy one. There's always been a lot of how do I put
Opposition.
it, opposition, especially from mainstream society, of not wanting to accept this game as part of the norm of the Australian way, because they
Mm,
feel it's a very foreign game. It doesn't
mm,
belong in the Australian psyche. But
mm.
what they forget to realize is that this game is the biggest game in the world. It connects everybody in the world, not your Aussie rule football. I mean, so, yeah. So it's a good thing to see this result. In fact, if I can remember, in the last World Cup, it was a very pretty disappointing campaign. I
Yeah.
felt that after that World Cup, perhaps we may not see Australia again at this level, because the
Mm,
generation, the talent that was coming is just nowhere there.
mm.
They were still depending on a 38-year-old Tim Cahill to carry them all the way to Russia.
Uh,
But as what I mentioned earlier, they won't they nobody gave them a chance against Peru in the qualifier. They had zero expectation. But Graham Arnold pulled off, the Louis Van Gaal trick by substituting his keeper in the penalty shootout, and the rest is history.
Hmm. Okay, we've got one comment coming in from Victor Sim. Hi, bro, Raswinder. Been catching all the World Cup action? Not really. No, only the early games. I've almost all the 6 and 9 p.m. games I've watched, and then lately the 11. When it came to the crunch matches, like the final ones, I've chose whether to watch the 11 p.m. or the 3 a.m. The first rounds I chose the 3 a.m., and then subsequently it's been all 11 p.m. Probably going to go back to 11 p.m. matches only until let's see something exciting pops up. So Group E, wow, this group,
Wow,
wow,
wow, wow, wow,
yeah,
wow.
wow, this one.
I have a story to share about this group. To be
Okay, tell
honest.
me, tell me, tell us.
Okay, I work for a Japanese insurance firm in Malaysia.
Yeah.
So during in one of the one of the days, they had this some kind of cultural sharing lah. Basically, our Japanese
Okay.
bosses, they got us to stay back at office for about 1 hour. They wanted to
Mm,
share a bit about Japan to us, and
mm, mm,
of course, most of the things I more or less knew lah.
mm,
But when it came to the Q&A part, me being the football guy, I just raised my hand and said, what do you feel about the Blue Samurai chances in Qatar?
mm,
I think one of the two Japanese bosses understood my question, but the rest of the people, especially my colleagues who are not into football, all looked at me in one kind like, what is Flo asking? Samurai? What's going on here? I felt so embarrassed. I felt so small, like thinking to myself, oh my God, did I ask the wrong thing at the wrong time? But
uh,
they were gentlemen enough to reply my answer. They said they really don't know. I mean, what to expect from Japan, but they of course they hope that Japan will do well. And so at the time, I was sitting next to my big boss, my big Japanese boss, right next to me, and he was
mm,
looking to the goal. He was telling me, Germany and Spain is very difficult. Like
mm,
you could see it, he was pouring his heart out, just trying to let me know, like that he doesn't feel that Japan has a chance.
mm.
But I did mention him to this way, you never know. They might pull at least one upset and they might make it through the next round. Well, they did, right?
They pull two upsets.
Two, yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
fantastic. I mean the okay
But
first game
but before we
Germany.
go into that, Russ, I
Yeah.
think that I also feel like I need to address that in the context of Japan. When they say Japan upsetted Spain, they stunned Germany, I think that narrative is simply quite wrong.
Mm,
I will say wrong because one, you look at the number of players who are playing in Europe.
yeah.
Many of them are playing at the highest level.
Yeah.
It shouldn't never be any more a surprise or shock when Japan achieved this kind of result against Germany and Spain. It should be and expected, and they should go for it. That's my,
Interestingly
that
enough, I think a lot of them play in Germany and Spain.
Yes. So when people say Japan is stunned, shocking, I don't think so. Maybe 10 years ago it would have been a surprise, but to me,
Yeah.
no, that it's no
I
longer a
mean, look
surprise.
at the team that made their debut in 1998. All the players were Japanese based.
Yep.
The one fellow, I think probably Kazu Miura was not even in the squad.
Yep.
That was one of the biggest shock. But yeah, compared to that and now today, I think yeah, what you say has a point there. But I think it's just that the world is not aware of the the progress Japan has made.
Yep.
And okay, first game Germany, I felt they were wow. Okay, started well because I felt this thing that they were doing in the game of high press. I thought was really good. In fact they scored first, but it was this loud. And then when Germany scored and then they took over the game, I felt okay. Maybe it could be a bit tough for Japan to get back into the game. But second half, don't know what they did, but second half they did some fantastic work in the dressing room. And there's I remember a meme going around that there's this what's the coach's name?
Moriyasu.
Moriyasu, yeah. So there's this bottle of Moriyasu special water going around, maybe given something to every player, and then they've drank that and come out as different players. But yeah, what a game that one was against Germany, beating them. And I didn't watch the one against Spain because after watching Iran lose and then Saudi lose, I thought, okay, this one pack up, finish. Japan's gonna lose, so I slept.
But
And when
Japan
I
did it the hard way, man.
yeah,
They could have just got it done against Costa Rica.
yes, precisely. I felt that that was it against Costa Rica. I was really confident. Okay, Japan's gonna beat Costa Rica because Costa Rica completely got slaughtered by Spain. Their confidence will be low. Japan's confidence will be high, and they got good quality players. This is probably, you could say, level playing field, or maybe even Japan as favorites to and and they've qualified early,
Hmm.
but they lost that one. Lost it quite late also. They lost that one, and then had to leave it hard, do it the hard way against Spain again. Now this one against Spain, did the ball cross the line or not?
I don't know, lah,
The,
bro.
the
For
age
me,
old. This is the age old World Cup question dating back to
I
1966.
I honestly speaking, from a rough eye, I felt the ball didn't. I felt the ball already crossed the line. But again, it only goes to shows that even VAR is not perfect.
Mm,
VAR itself is not perfect.
yeah,
So it's perhaps maybe for the romanticism part of the World Cup, it's good to see that we are having this kind of conversation again, even though with technology involved.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I certain angles they shows that okay, the ball did not completely cross the line. Then certain angles it shows, yup, it crossed the line. So I mean, their decision got to be made. As much time as they took to make the decision, it still got to be made there and then. They didn't have the luxury of doing after 2 3 days. So it is what it is. Unfortunate for Germany, and Germany, second time that they've got knocked out in the group stage, two World Cups in a row. They are like what you say, traditional powerhouse of world football, of World Cup. World Cups past. I think they have had a very impressive record in World Cups, reaching semi-finals and finals consistently. And here they are out of the group stage, two World Cups in a row. Are you shocked, or would you say, yeah, not surprising at all?
Well, I am shocked, but at the same time, I'm still trying to find some logic as to what made Germany this poor. I mean,
Yeah, agree,
obviously,
agree. I
but I
agree with
think
you on that. I agree with you on that.
because
I'm
because
also trying to find that logic.
because as far as I look at the squad wise, you have your Jamal Musiala, Gundogan, Gnabry, Goretzka, Kimmich, and all that. I mean, you still have players who are match winners who can make a difference.
Yeah, quality
Maybe to
players.
some extent, Thomas Muller, maybe he shouldn't. Maybe perhaps his time is up, lah.
Mm,
But again, I just cannot figure out what's. But perhaps I would say the Japan game for them was a turning point
mm,
because that, like it or not, they did getting a draw against Spain would have been expectable.
yeah,
Probably defeating Costa Rica was something we can expect from them. But losing
yeah,
to Japan, that was the result. That was their turning point, I would say. I think that's
mm,
where the real damage was done for them.
yeah. Exactly true. And that also fun fact, they beat Costa Rica with the same score that they beat Costa Rica in 2006.
Hmm.
But those were happier times for Germany this time. Out in the group stage. Someone did draw a similarity between Germany and Italy. Italy 2006 winners, out in the group stage 2010, 2014, didn't qualify in 2018, 2022. Germany winners in 2014, out in the group stage 2018, 2022. So would they not qualify for the next two World Cups? We do not know. Let's see.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But what you say is
Yeah,
true. I mean, they still have quality players. They still produce quality players, and I just can't understand why they're so poor. In fact, even the coach isn't too bad. It's not like, you
yeah.
got a rookie manager or a horrible manager. Even he is not too bad. But, I can't really point a finger to why Germany is,
Some are attributing to the
something
absence
doesn't
of
look
Mesut
right.
Ozil.
Yeah.
Some are attributing to the absence of Mesut Ozil, but I don't think Mesut Ozil in 2022 will make a difference for this German
Yeah,
team.
correct, correct,
He's
correct,
not the
correct.
player that he used to be. So
Yeah, true.
again, but I don't think what happened to Germany will happen considering the next World Cup is going to be 48 teams.
Yeah,
It's
48 teams. That's right.
impossible to see that happening, lah. But you never
Yeah,
know.
yeah, 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 true. Spain, impressed by Spain?
Well, I did expect Spain to do well, although yes, we can. the game against Japan may have been a bit controversial, but overall, I think I did expect Spain to do well, and I think
Mm.
Spain again. Probably the game against Japan was unexpected, but they did got the result against Costa Rica and they did drew with Germany.
Yeah.
I think the overall they're not too bad lah. And the
Mm.
interesting thing about Spain is their coach Luis Enrique. If you
Yeah.
all know that he actually has a Twitch account
Okay.
whereby
Yeah. Yeah.
he goes live after every game and interacts with the fans to explain to them, the tactics, the decision, and everything why, which I
Mm.
think is a very new thing in football. Maybe something that will be put into practice in the future, maybe by other
Yeah.
coaches,
Yeah.
because you may need to. I mean, you'll probably be a much better platform to explain to the public on what was your rationale, the decision you made, and all that. And I mean, it's an interesting move made by him. I want to see where does it go from here.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Of course, Spain very impressive in the first game, smashing Costa Rica 7-0. And then okay, made it through. But I mean, some people have still got doubts about Spain because they all there are a lot of pretty football. Whenever you see Spain, it's always pretty football. But this time they seem not just this time, but recently they seem to be missing that final touch that to put an end to all that pretty football. They need someone to score the goals. So that seems to be missing. And could it also be that they used up the quota for the tournament in that one game against Costa Rica? You never know. That kind of things can happen. So yeah, so that is Spain. And finally Costa Rica. Someone mentioned this, that Costa Rica always does well in the World Cup. It's not just 2014, 1990 also they did well. And nobody expected them to beat Japan, but they will beat Japan and they were in it. Even they were leading against Germany. So at one point, Germany and Spain were out. Costa Rica and Japan were going through. Imagine how crazy that would have been if that ended like that. We've been here. I mean, as neutrals, we'll be fantastic because wow, wonderful, right? Seeing the s- teams like that go through. But wow, okay, some comments coming through from Victor again. Blue Samurai defeated two former champions in the same group. Someone before the start tell you they would defeat these two footballing nations, they would have bite your hand off. But it was the truth. They did it. Well played indeed. Okay.
Yep.
And I think on Germany, Victor's mentioning. Funny thing is, Adeyemi and Mokoku are there, yet they resist calling the young strikers when they needed firepower up front. Perhaps thinking they don't want to blood them in. Germany lack a proper. Germany lack a prolific scorer was their downfall. A lot was expected of Thomas Muller, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
I
Even
think the
Germany.
I think the player they were banking on the score of goal is Niklas Fulkrug. I
Yeah,
think he
and he
just
did.
made his
He did.
debut like not too long ago.
Hmm.
I felt, looking at his storyline, I thought he could have been, a
Still
modern day
Archie.
version of Oliver Bierhoff.
Okay, okay.
If you know Oliver Bierhoff, I mean, he also was pretty much a late comer in the
Yeah,
German national team,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So agreed on that. I mean, but he was probably arguably their best player because he was one he actually scored in the games. So moving on from that exciting group, another exciting group. Wow, Morocco, Croatia, Belgium, Canada. Okay, first of all, Belgium, end of the golden generation. This golden generation term, I feel, has become a curse. If someone is built as the golden generation, that's it. They're gonna fail. And Belgium, okay. I mean, Belgium getting knocked out is not like, I wouldn't say like, okay, like Brazil getting knocked out in the group stage, or Germany, even Germany, Brazil, all these former champions, multiple champions, Argentina, Italy, if they had made it, these multiple champions getting knocked out of the group stage. Then you would say, yeah, oh wow, big team. But Belgium has always, I mean, in recent years since this golden generation come through, they've always been this team that people see as, okay, the dark horse. This team, maybe Belgium can win it. It's always maybe, but they always falter. Do well in the group stage, go in the knockout stage, a bit like England, crunch time, they crack and they falter. And the players do well in their respective clubs, but coming together, something seems to be off. And also in this World Cup, it seems like something was off in that team. So, Steven, enough from me. You tell me about Belgium.
Okay, when it comes to the golden generation, I think you can say the team did okay lah. Compared to previous Belgium teams, I
Yeah.
think this generation, I would say, in a way, exceeded the expectation because they were quarterfinalists in the 2014 World Cup, quarterfinalists in 2016 Euro, semi-finalists in 2018, and last Euro so made it to the quarterfinal stage, right?
Yep.
So I think overall, they did okay lah. When you think of Belgium's football history, for that matter. But one of the constant problem that existed in Belgium, even in the past, because the country is split into two. There is the Franco-speaking region, and there's the Dutch-speaking region.
Hmm.
There's always been, not said, an issue in the dressing room with regards to these two factions. I think it was only when Mark Wilmots became the manager in the 2014 World Cup. Prior to that, he managed to sort of bridge the gap and united the players. I
Hmm.
don't know whether or not if it's something the same problem has reoccurred in this current squad, because
Hmm.
you could read by their body language even when they're singing the national anthem. Some players were just not in it.
Hmm.
They didn't feel for the shirt,
Yeah.
so you could tell that there is something doesn't seem right. So not surprised they were disappointing. Yes, beat Canada even 1-0, very lukewarm result. Did
Even that
manage
they could
to,
have lost, right, against Canada.
yeah, they could have lost. They could have lost, and I think it's only fair to say that they don't deserve to be in the round of 16. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. And Canada. Okay, let's talk about Canada. They're going to host the World Cup in 4 years' time. What do you think about their performance?
I think let's be frank about them. Like, we did not expect them to do well in this World Cup, but to
Yeah.
be here itself, I think it's a huge achievement for them. For
Hmm.
considering where they were not too long ago, because I think even 1 year ago, Canada didn't look like even going to make it to the World Cup.
Hmm.
And I remember sometime last year we did on the Bola Bola Show, we interviewed a former Canadian international who played with Terengganu, Issei
Oh,
Nakajima.
okay.
I mean, of course, at that time, the biggest name was Alfonso Davies. And when we asked,
Yeah.
what would be Canada's chances, he felt that they needed a little bit more than Alfonso Davies. So
Hmm.
he wasn't too sure whether or not, this group has what it takes. And a couple of the players, including Sivan John,
Okay. Lost you there, Steven.
okay, where you lost me?
You're talking about a couple of players in the Canadian team,
Yeah, what
more
the
than
keeper,
Alfonso Davies.
Milan Borjan, and what's his name? Atiba Hutchison,
Yeah.
actually his former teammates. So, he wasn't too confident that Canada will make it. And I think for them to come this far itself is already an achievement. For a country for the fact that we know they just launched their professional league, will be hosting a World Cup in 4 years' time. Perhaps just to be here will be a good build up for them.
Hmm. Yeah. Morocco, again, is another team that I've had a soft spot for since 98. That team was exciting, the 98 one. And that one also just narrowly missed qualifying for the.
That was a painful exit, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I was supporting Scotland in the game, being partially
Scottish.
Scottish lah,
Yeah,
but their performance was just outstanding.
yeah.
But it's just sad because Norway defeated Brazil. That meant that Morocco missed out the last 16. And you can tell, you look at the players' face, they were really disappointed. They were really let down by that game.
Hmm.
But this generation, I would say, in a way, can put that pain, all those things
To rest. Yeah,
to rest. And
yeah, certainly. They went one step further. They even qualified top of the group. Fantastic
yeah,
achievement by Morocco. Played
yeah.
very well. And again,
And what people seem to forget is that when we think of African football, we always think it started with Cameroon in 1990, because
hmm,
they defeated Argentina. They went all the way. But actually, if you think about it, 4 years earlier in the World Cup in Mexico, Morocco was the first African team to make it past the group stage, top their
no,
group. So I think it's their history in the World Cup somewhat is underrated lah.
hmm,
But this time, I think they're putting everything to rest. They really made it. And obviously, I'm very happy for a player by the name of Abdelhamid Sabri, who did play
Yes.
for Huddersfield Town not too
He's
long
he's
ago.
he's a really good player. I've seen him at Sampdoria. I
Yeah.
think he's done well there. He's doing well there at the moment.
Yes.
Yep. And of course, I'm happy for Ashraf Hakimi. He's their star, of course, but I think he's performing. He's doing well. The whole team is doing well. They're playing as a team, playing with cheered on by that partisan crowd. Again, like I say, Arab nation in Qatar, really good showing. Really, 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 really loud support you get from them. It's like they're playing at home.
Yeah.
You know, and so they are really buoyed by this support. And I think if we could be in here, I mean, Morocco could actually be this surprise team in this tournament
Yeah.
if all goes well, of course.
Hmm.
And Croatia, well, that Croatia Belgium game, man, what a game! That's I probably one of the most entertaining nil-nils I've watched.
Well, I
Um,
didn't get to watch that game because I was focusing on the other one. But
okay.
I don't know. I personally felt maybe Croatia is a little bit disappointing this time, missing out
Hmm.
some of the spark and fire that they had in them 4 years ago.
They actually, I felt they played well. They played well. It's just up front. If you think they're missing something, I think they're missing something up front.
Hmm.
I still feel Dawosuka is Dawosuka. If 2018 had Dawosuka, they would have won the World Cup.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, don't have. And now, especially, they needed a striker like that, and that is probably gonna be maybe their downfall. If especially if they struggle to get goals elsewhere. So people like Perisic and Modric, uh, Brozovic, even all these guys, if they don't turn up, I think they could be in a bit of trouble because they really attacked and pushed Belgium back. There are a lot of chances, but they just didn't take it. They could have won the game easy, but they risk losing that game because of that misses by Lukaku. Oh my god, unbelievable misses. I mean, I've seen Lukaku up close at United and then Inter, and I know Lukaku sometimes would have games where he might miss one or two, but this many, I have never seen that before. And his reaction at the end of the game also, you feel for the player
Yeah.
because it's not like he wanted to miss those chances, but it just was not his day. It just
Yeah.
didn't fall for him. He couldn't score for some reason or another. Just nothing worked out. He felt like he was space jammed at that moment, but
Hmm.
that's the story of that.
It just
Team.
wasn't meant to be, lah. Yeah.
Yeah, precisely not fated. Okay, moving on. Okay, Germany. This Group G, Brazil qualifying. Brazil, Switzerland, Cameroon, Serbia. I would gotta say Cameroon. I'm impressed with their showing in this World Cup. I think we've been waiting for a long time for Cameroon to turn up at a World Cup. I mean, 1990 I didn't watch, but we all know about their magical run in 1990. Then came that generation that won the Olympic gold medal in 2000, and they underperformed in 2002. And then since then, of course, we've just been waiting for Cameroon to turn up, and they had a bit of drama in this World Cup where the goalkeeper Andre Onana and the manager Rigobert Song had a bit of falling out, and Onana left. I thought, okay, maybe with this drama, maybe Cameroon's gonna unbuckle, but then they did not. And what a comeback that one was against Serbia as well, from 3-1 down to draw 3-3. Great
Hmm.
game, great game
Yep.
to watch. One of the best games in this tournament. Your opinion on Cameroon and Serbia, in fact, at the same time?
Oh, well, I think maybe I had a bit of expectation from Serbia,
Yeah,
but I was really impressed with the way Cameroon responded in that game.
yeah,
I would say they're very, very unlucky. They could have won the game, even though, yes, they were trailing behind. They managed to earn a draw, but I felt that, they could have a little bit more luck. I think they could have at least nicked 3 points from that game. It would have been an amazing comeback for them.
yeah.
But, they kept their composure in the game against Brazil, to earn a victory.
That was a
And I
great
think,
goal.
yeah. And I remember everybody's writing off Vincent Abubakar, saying that, he passed his prime and all that. He's
Yeah,
playing in Saudi Arabia and all that. But as you can see, if you are a player if you have hunger and motivation in you, doesn't matter where you're playing, As long as you turn up, you give your best on the field, anything is possible.
Mm.
I have to say I'm very happy for him that he managed to get that winning goal.
Yeah, exactly. I've also heard that narrative about Vincent Abubakar, and I was thinking that this guy is probably what 37, 38. This is it, end of the tournament, end of his international career. But then I just googled it. He's only 30, so he could still play another tournament.
Hmm.
I- So this narrative, I just don't understand. Sometimes there are some players that do well for their countries, but maybe not so in their club career. But yeah, agreed on that.
I
Serbia, yeah,
Serbia, I think is absolutely disappointing. If you think
yeah,
about the fact that the squad, the players they have, the Dusan Tadic, the Mitrovic, the Milinkovic Savic and all that, I felt that,
yeah,
they could have been a lot better. Maybe they would have been
yeah,
the second best team in this group behind Brazil.
yeah.
But to see where they end up, I mean, that's really disappointing.
And also
Yep.
with a person that was a great player himself, Dragan Stoshkovic, as the manager. Well, I mean, you know that not all great players make great managers, right? So
Hmm.
that's another example. That's another example there. So yeah, yeah, agreed on Serbia. And Switzerland is always there and thereabouts. For some reason, they're always there and thereabouts, and they qualified. And Brazil being Brazil, I think one of the favorites to win the World Cup. They've impressed a lot of people, but a bit struggling a bit. I feel. You do you agree?
Yeah. I'm kind of feeling like there's something just doesn't add up with this Brazil team. Even though, yes, on paper they look like a very strong team, but the fact is they can be tested and they can be beaten, which is a
Mm,
good thing for Argentina because we might, if everything goes according to plan, we could end up playing them in the semi-final. But again, you never know where
yeah,
they go from here.
yeah,
But like it or not, I would have to say this again. Their squad depth is still one of the strongest team in the competition.
yeah.
Maybe the players haven't really put in that. Maybe haven't really went into third gear or what. But it might be interesting to see in the knockout stage how they deal with the situation.
It's interesting to note also that supposedly Gabriel Jesus is out for the tournament.
And what about Nima?
Neymar, it seems he would be back for the second round match, but not
Hmm.
too sure yet. Same
Okay.
for Alexandro and Danilo. So a bit of an injury crisis going on in the Brazilian team. Let's see. Okay, so Victor, very active. 16 groups of three may be scrapped as rumored for the next World Cup that rolls about. 12 teams of four most likely, but any changes likely to be next year as mentioned. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks for sharing that. Okay, final group we're going to speak about. Also another exciting one. Portugal. Portugal settled it after two games, qualified easy peasy. Uh, so nothing much to add on Portugal. Let's see how they do in the knockout round.
But do you feel that Cristiano was a bit underwhelming? Hasn't really. I mean, probably Portugal would have done a lot. I understand his role in the team, but I kind of felt that a Portuguese team without him may look a much better side lah.
Hmm. I mean I feel after the interview he did um, before the World Cup, Portugal is in a bit of a pressure situation. They maybe will need to play him so as not to rock the boat and for the harmony of the team. So he's done okay. He's not a Cristiano Ronaldo of old, which we have seen at Manchester United this season. He's not Cristiano Ronaldo of old. He's done okay, been involved in some bits and plays and link ups and all that. But it's also interesting to note that they are not relying on him for goals. They've got goals from other sources, assists from other sources. So perhaps that's a positive for um, what's the name, Portugal, and they've also shown that they've not been afraid to substitute him. They've substituted him in all three games,
Hmm.
and they have players that can come on and make a difference. So I think probably this Portugal team has better depth than probably any that we known, even their golden generation.
Better that I agree, but just that I think Fernando Santos has overstayed.
Yeah, agree. That
Mhm.
again, him, Gareth Southgate are probably going to be managers that will hold back their national team.
Mm.
Even Roberto Martinez, but that's done and dusted now. So,
Some even say the same thing about the Japan coach Moriyasu and even Paulo Bento for South Korea.
uh,
Coaches, I mean, they feel that with the players they have. But then again, I think it's also important to remember that in international football competition, in a short 1 month span competition, sometimes you need to be smart and being pragmatic when it matters.
hmm,
And these things sometimes have play a role.
hmm.
Yeah.
And now let's speak about that game. I know you were always looking forward to it. Uruguay versus Ghana. Were you disappointed?
Well, I have to say I am disappointed with Uruguay overall because I think
Yeah,
they left it a bit too late lah.
yeah,
I think against South Korea they should have got something out of the game. Maybe against Portugal it was a tall order that I don't know. I'm not too sure why they lost. Is it because Portugal were the better team? But they did enough against Ghana, but just not good enough to make it out of the group stage. So I always go back to the game against South Korea. That was a turning point
hmm,
because if to me the best teams will not will the best teams will make sure that fate is in its own hands, not on another team.
hmm, hmm.
So when they were in that situation, I kind of felt they're and the best thing is that when they were dominating against Ghana, I felt
Yeah,
they should have kept going for more goals.
yeah,
They should have, but they substitute Suarez, and then they regress. They started to be more defensive, trying to preserve a 2 goal lead. Maybe they did not expect that South Korea will respond against Portugal.
yeah,
But if I were the coach, knowing how things have been going on in this World Cup, you should have expected that South Korea might beat Portugal. You should have expected that. You know,
yeah,
at this point of time, to be honest, if all these World Cup coaches, if they're hearing me out, please do not underestimate your opponent. Make sure your team's fate is in your hands. You go out there and make sure your player give the best and win the game. That's it.
We need, don't calculate, don't be
Don't
calculative and
don't
think,
don't
yeah,
don't.
yeah, you think, okay, let's play for a draw, let's play for a win, let's go for penalty shootout and all. No, no, nothing of that sort. Just
No
go for
no.
it.
Hmm.
Yep. Very impressive with that game. I mean, in Uruguay's performance, because after missing the penalty, Ghana was just gone. And
Yeah.
then late in the game, they completely gave up hope of coming back in the game, and they were determined to be party poopers for Uruguay, wasting time. And the goalkeeper, I felt Ziggy, right? Ghana's
Yep. Yep.
goalkeeper's name. Wow, I think he had a great tournament. He made many great saves in the for Ghana.
I
Wow,
felt Ghana was just unlucky. Lah. I mean, they played very well against Portugal and South Korea. They could have just a bit unlucky. Lah. I think, in terms of getting goals, they didn't have a problem, but probably the defense need to improve.
yeah, I agree on that. I Portugal not so, because I felt Portugal did well enough to win. South Korea they won, so yep. I felt that one, yeah, against South Korea they deserved to win. And this one, I felt that, after they missed the penalty, they were not in the game. So they completely blown away by Uruguay. And Uruguay, I mean, they've got a lot of players. Yeah, probably last tournament for Suarez, Caceres, Muslera, Cavani, all these guys, probably Godin, last tournament for all these players. But they have really good young players coming up. And as you said, we saw yesterday how good the team was if they just attacked. And it's a pity. It's a pity. But I want to bring your attention back to that game. Do you feel that Uruguay should have got a penalty? The whole thing about at the end of the match where
I felt it should have
Uruguay
been a
went
penalty.
crazy. Yeah,
I
I
felt it should
felt
have
it
been a
should have been
penalty.
penalty too. Yeah,
Yep.
it's so clear. It was so clear. The referee didn't award it, fine, but VAR is there to spot that
But as we've seen,
again.
VAR can't make the best decision.
Yeah,
I mean, VAR can give you a picture, but how the referee interprets it, that's a totally different matter. So human element still comes into the force.
yeah, true. I just can't understand that at all. So I mean, Uruguay going crazy at in the final whistle. I agree. I mean, I don't agree with the scenes or how they were behaving, but I can understand why they were so angry and mad with the referee. But sometimes these things happen also in World Cup. Fate is not in your hands, and as you said, it should have been in their hands, but it wasn't. And South Korea, what a comeback!
What a comeback!
Amazing.
And most importantly, what a story for this South Korean player that scored the goal.
Yeah.
Who I was made to understand that he actually was doing a national service by
Mm.
playing for the army team in South Korea.
Hmm.
South Korea, they have this. I mean, similarly to Singapore, they have this
Yeah.
mandatory. You have to do
National
national service and
service.
all
Yeah.
that. So he was doing it. Apparently, I mean, anybody can correct me here. Apparently, he was doing his national service by playing for the army team.
Okay.
So hopefully, after this, once his service is over, he could have a big move to a European club because the guy is really good, man.
He's playing for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Hua Wee Chun, right?
I think no, the goal scorer against Ghana, if I'm not mistaken.
Ah, okay. Okay, that guy. Okay. Anyways, our friend Victor has got South Korea first game against Uruguay. If anything, showed lots of endeavors, but both countries got no change out from the attackers. Miserly defense with the outgoing Cavani and Luis Suarez. The burden will fall on Darwin Nunes' shoulders. Even he may disappoint, but showed enough to mature 4 years later than maybe
Yep.
also I would feel I mean, not saying it as a United fan, but probably Darwin Nunes. Sometimes players do better. Maybe they're not suited to play in England. They do better in Spain or in Italy or in Germany, and
Mm-hmm.
then you see a different player. In the case of Uruguay, Diego Forlan was one of those players like that. So yeah, let's see. So we're done. I mean, overall, just to sum it up, Steven, what do you make about the group stage?
It brings back the similar vibe of 2002, lah, basically.
Mm.
I don't know, like this is the story that every time when a World Cup is held in Asia, expect the unexpected, lah, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Agreed to an extent, but really exciting. I mean, I was getting a bit disappointed when I was like, waking up at 3 a.m. and then seeing Iran. I was hoping Iran qualify and win. They didn't. Then the same thing for Saudi. I was getting disappointed. I thought, nah, the usual whatever expected is going to happen. But then things change. Things change quickly in football and in life as well. That's generally how it is. But yeah, so we're done at the group stage. I think it's been breathtaking. It's been exciting. Quickly now, the round of 16 coming up very soon in 30 minutes time. In fact, Holland against US. Your pick to go through.
Well, I would like to see US to do go far.
Okay.
And you never know. Netherlands, well, you know they are capable of pushing the wrong button at the wrong time. Shooting
Yeah.
their own foot when you least expect them.
Yeah.
It might happen. But
Mm.
I think on paper, Netherlands are the stronger team. But I would like to see US progress further.
Okay. Next one, Australia and Argentina. For me, I think Argentina is gonna walk all over them. You
I
might say,
don't.
yeah, never know,
I don't
but
think. I don't think it's going to be a walkover. I think Argentina will win the game, but it'll be a close one, a very close one.
okay, all right. Then the following one, wow, this one, Japan against Croatia, I think is gonna be really exciting. Nobody know what's gonna
I
happen.
I I would like to see
Or you-
Japan.
Japan, okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind either going through, but yeah. Brazil and South Korea.
Given a chance, I would like to see a South Korea Japan quarterfinal
Yeah,
fight
I would also. I
because
would also.
you can only imagine what is at stake being the being the second team from Asia in a semi-final.
Mm,
So, but I think it's hard to see Brazil being undone by South Korea. I think
mm,
this is the best the South Korea can go. Yeah.
okay. England and Senegal. I think England's gonna win this.
I got a hunch for Senegal. I don't know
Uh-huh.
why. Maybe. But obviously, on paper, England is a stronger team.
Okay. France against Poland. I'm supporting the Poles. because I want France out, but I think France is strong. They're
Yeah,
really
I
strong.
I think France will do it.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, so far that there's no drama in the French team.
Yet.
Even though build up to the World Cup, we heard some stories about Paul Pogba, his brother, trying to do something to Mbappe and all that. I
Yeah.
thought here we go again, but so far you can see that the team is still remain focused in the job.
Hmm.
So I think they definitely will be in the quarterfinal.
Okay. Morocco against Spain. I would like Morocco to go through.
Same, but I think Spain will do it. Lah.
Okay. Last one. Portugal against Switzerland. Switzerland has a knack of surprising teams.
Mm, they can do it, but I think it's going to be Portugal. Lah.
Yeah, I think Portugal too. Agreed. But Switzerland always have this knack of surprising teams somehow, somewhere. You know. So let's see. So these are your picks, and we're done. We're done with the show. I mean, it's been really good talk. We've just kept it open. Went through each team in depth, each group in depth. In fact, not team, and covered almost all the teams in the tournament. So that's like 32 teams we've covered and their performances in this tournament. I don't think you've watched every single game, right, Steven? At our
Oh no,
age
lah, bro, no,
and with
lah,
our
bro.
commitment.
I mean, as much as I would like to, work commitments and all that, comes into the
Yeah.
picture. So it's really impossible, lah. But I will try to watch some of the better games, lah.
Mm.
Initially, when I missed out most of the 3 o'clock games, I felt like I made the right choice because it wasn't really much of there wasn't much of goals. Some of them were 0-0. So I thought,
Yeah, yeah. There were quite a number of zero
yeah.
zeros. Yeah.
But as towards the end of the group stage, you tend to realize that some of the best games turns out at 3 o'clock. So yeah.
Yeah, correct. True.
Mm.
Which ones you looking forward to besides your own one in this second round?
Wow. Definitely, I'm looking forward to Japan Croatia
Yeah,
because I
me
think
too.
on paper it's a very balanced affair.
Mm.
I'm definitely looking forward to Switzerland Portugal because I think
Mhm.
these are the one of the few fixtures that you can see that is actually can go any other way.
Mm.
Can go either way. Yeah.
Okay. For me, Morocco, Spain as well. There's another one I'm looking forward to. Not quite Portugal, Switzerland. Well, it depends. If Portugal, Switzerland is at 11 p.m., then then I'll watch that. But otherwise, I think Morocco, Spain. Okay. Something here. Chelsea duo Edward Mendy and Koulibaly might have something to say against England. But hey, England all the way. It's coming home. Let's see. You
I,
always
I,
say
I
that.
saw I saw a YouTube video. Senegalese fans say it's not coming home. It's coming to Africa.
Well, it'd be beautiful if the World Cup goes to Asia or Africa, right?
I think it's going to happen. The way I see football is progressing, it will happen.
Mm,
I mean, it will be a tough stretch it will be a long stretch for me to say it will happen in my lifetime, but I got a feeling it will.
mm. Okay. All right, Steven. Let's bring the end this show. Almost like a football match. 90 minutes, almost there. So yeah, Steven, thanks a lot for taking the time to speak to us
My
on a
pleasure, bro.
Saturday. Yeah, on a Saturday as well, Saturday night. Looking forward to the game coming up. Good luck to everyone, whoever you're supporting. And yeah, till we meet again, we'll see you again at the end of the second round. So good luck. And Victor's got one last one. With this being knockout rounds, good luck to those watching. With the extra time and penalties, we'll watch till 2 or even 6 a.m. That's what he meant. If regular time can't settle it. So enjoy the matches. Yep.
Oh,
That's our
yep, yep.
message as well. That's our message as well. Okay. This is me, Ras, signing out. Bye bye.